This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California. And I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. We've got a great show for you today. Some of the topics we're going to be covering include, is $1 million retirement nest egg enough? Do you have enough to retire if you have $1 million? We're going to be discussing that, as well as, are you continuing to work past age 70 or are you considering it? What's the financial impact of that kind of decision? And of course, we've got some great listener questions to answer for you this weekend as well. Tom, my friend, it's great to be back with you. What's going on in your world this week?
Getting excited about the summer getting here, and just really excited about this show because there's some good meat within this show that I think can help a lot of you who are listening.
Absolutely. Well, let's just get right to it, shall we?
Yep.
All right. So first up, this is a really interesting article that you came across. It was titled 3 Reasons $1 Million Retirement Nest Egg Might Fail You. And I don't know about you, Tom, but it seems like for years, the goal of most savers and investors was, I just need to have $1 million. If I can just save $1 million, I'm going to be okay in retirement. Then that whole commercial campaign came out with what's your number? And we're starting to hear different numbers. Well, maybe it's actually 2 million. But whatever the case is, I think this article brings up some really key points that we need to discuss. And so again, why is it, what are these 3 reasons why having $1 million for folks may not be enough?
Well, now they're saying they just came out within the past couple of weeks and they've recalculated a recalculation. You need at least 1.4 million. And, there's that old story of moving the cheese, and
right,
it seems
yes.
like every time you get to a certain point, like in Southern California, I've got children who live here and they're all in their 20s and early 30s and they're saving money to buy a house. And just as one was almost close enough to buy a house, and then what happened? Boom, the interest rates shot up more than double, and so now the payment on that house would be more than double. So they've moved the cheese. They've done it again, and $1 million for so long was the mark. I mean, to be a millionaire, there was a show on TV. I loved it, where this ultra rich guy would go around and give people $1 million tax free, and see how it changed their lives, wrecked their lives, made their lives, And it's always been a target to be a millionaire. A $1 million total was what was there. Even billboards, at least here in Southern California, about 5 or 6 years ago, one of the big insurance companies started with a P, and they were a piece of the rock if you got involved with them, okay? And they had big billboards that said, how are you going to get to your 1 million? Do you have your 1 million? And it was all on the theme of 1 million. And now we know that won't do it. So what do we do now,
Right.
And I think there's some reasons that maybe 1 million won't do it. And I'll just lead off into them. Number one, people aren't aware of what they're spending.
Right.
They don't have any controls, or not controls necessarily, but you could call it that.
Awareness, right?
Awareness.
Yeah.
Right. We always encourage people when we start to build a retirement blueprint for everybody who comes in to see us. And we always start with, what are you spending right now? And some people come back on us and they say, well, it's not what I'm spending right now. It's what I'm going to be spending in retirement. Guess what? What you're spending right now is a very, very good indicator of what you're going to be spending in retirement. So we actually help them. Many have never done it before. And I realize if you're an engineer out there, you don't understand what I just said, because you've got that 6 pages, it's all taped together, and you can tell me what you're going to be bringing in 2184. That's right, like 160 years from now, and you've got it all together. But most people aren't engineers. Most people don't know what they're spending, and they're shocked. They're shocked, Kristin, and all of you who are out there who don't have a budget, or I call it better, a spending plan, because it is a spending plan. If you don't know what you're spending, you're shocked most of the time to find out the total. I mean, I've had people say stuff like, I'm embarrassed, I'm awed, I'm just appalled, at what we're spending, And so you need to start with, if you're going to wade into this, you can treat this radio show or reading a book on financial planning or retirement planning or thinking about getting a retirement blueprint. If you're out there, you can treat it like that piece of exercise equipment you got for Christmas one year, where maybe you investigated it, you plugged it in, it would work, and you walk by it every day, you put clothes on it, boxes are sitting on it now, and you never used it. You never got involved in it. And what I'm saying is, if you're going to start to build a retirement blueprint, then what you've got to start with is, what are we spending right now? And the reason $1 million might not be good enough for you is you don't have a budget and you don't know what you're spending right now.
Right. Well, and you mentioned a couple key words. There's emotion tied to this, I think, for a lot of folks. When people have said to you, I'm ashamed, I didn't realize how much I was spending. That's why I think people ignore really looking at the details. But if you're listening right now and you're thinking, yeah, I'm scared to peel back the hood, if you will, to see what's underneath, to see how much we're spending, we want you to know that this is a judgment-free zone. Tom, you've seen it all. There's nothing that will surprise you. And you're not going to judge people. You're going to look at what they're spending and what their needs are to be able to figure out, okay, is there really enough here to work with to be able to maintain the lifestyle you want to maintain?
I've gone to people's funeral when I was in the ministry. I'd conducted funerals, and in hearing the story from the family, Dad knew something was wrong. He just kept refusing to go to the doctor. And sure enough, sometimes something that could have been treatable became something that wasn't treatable and was terminal because they just didn't address it. And the same way can happen for you out there financially. It's not a matter of, there's also that saying of, what you don't know won't hurt you. No, what you don't know can kill you financially and physically. If you've got a hurt and an ailment that's pretty severe and you know whether it's severe or not, go to the doctor. Right. And if you've got an unknown financially, you need to go to a financial doctor. You can come to us, you can go to somebody else, but you need to get some help to know what you're spending. And there's no way in the world you can know, do you have enough money to retire? Will 1 million do it? Will 1.4 million do it? Or Kristin, as you said, will 2 million do it? I don't know what will do it till I know what you're spending on a monthly basis now. And then there's the comeback there where they say, well, what does what I'm spending now have to do with it? You have to work from the known to the unknown.
Right.
Your mortgage is not going to change in retirement. Your car payment is not going to change in retirement. The food that you eat is not going to change during retirement. So a lot of things are not going to change, and then you can work with the few variables that do change, but you have to know what you're spending to know if $1 million will do it.
Absolutely. And there's two other things that can sneak up that this article did a great job of pointing out. One is that your medical bills could end up being higher than you're expecting. Let's talk about that, because healthcare is one of the most detrimental costs to someone's retirement nest egg.
Fidelity did a study that was about 4 years ago now, and they found out that with inflation to this point, if there's a couple out there and you're both 65 years old, from the day you turn 65, the two of you, you're probably going to spend a little over $300,000 on medical care for the rest of your life. Not my study, Fidelity study. I trust that they've done a good job of it. And then as you said, well, I'm single, so it'll be $150. There's actually a little bit more cost for a single person, because you might get to the point where you have to hire somebody rather than your spouse cost to take you to the doctor and things like that. So the cost for a single person is a little over $160,000. So medical cost have to be built in. I mean, when we build a retirement blueprint that we talk about on this show and we offer to anybody who calls up, we look at your income, we look at inflation and what it might do to you. We look at your investments, we look at your taxes. Number 5, we look at your health care coverage. Do you have the right Medicare coverage? Do you have the right long-term care coverage or some provision to pay for long-term care? Medical coverage is something that can kill you. You also, I would encourage you to do this. Get a fitness plan when you get into the retirement and try your best to stay as healthy as you possibly can. Get out and walk, get out and get sunlight, and cover those things that insurance can't cover you, because medical coverage can cut severely into a $1 million nest egg.
For sure. And you mentioned the word inflation. That's the other reason why, for a lot of folks, having 1 million won't be enough, because inflation doesn't go away.
You know what? It's sad to say, but one reason right now that the stock market is doing such dipsy doodles up and down sideways is the Federal Reserve last year said that we think we've solved the inflation problem. We're going to start reducing the interest rate. And then another report comes out and it says, well, maybe inflation is not solved. And remember, figures don't lie, but liars figure. And the numbers can be adjusted to make it look good, especially during an election year. So we really, when you go to the grocery store, you know that grocery store inflation's up about 25%. That's not going away. Social Security may reduce 21% to 79% within the next 10 years. That's not going away. So that idea of inflation, what happens if both of those things happen? If inflation is not solved and Social Security is reduced by 21%, that's why before you say, well, I don't know, I'll jump off that bridge when I get there, which is a saying I use about some things in life. But when it comes to retirement planning, if you're out there, you're uncovered if you don't have a retirement blueprint. If you've not addressed income, inflation, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy, you do not have a plan. You say, I've got a 401k. That's an account. It's not a plan. You need to have somebody help you pull that together. And that's what we offer you if you'll call in and get on our schedule.
That number to call to get your complimentary retirement blueprint is 888-930-5609. Again, rather than fixating on a certain number for your retirement nest egg, it's about you. It's about your personal needs and goals for retirement. And that customized retirement blueprint will be your roadmap to help you get there. This is for no cost, no charge, no obligation, simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management can help serve you. We've got a lot more to cover on today's show. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
Call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Will you outlive your money? It's a scary thought, but it's a real concern for many people. In our opinion, that's why it's crucial to have a solid retirement plan in place. We believe that with proper planning, you can work towards making your money last as long as you do. Don't wait until it's too late to start thinking about your financial future. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management today to learn how we can help you create a retirement plan that can potentially help you obtain peace of mind and security for years to come. Don't let the fear of running out of money in retirement keep you up at night. Take control of your financial future today by calling 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. And Tom, I really enjoyed that last segment, as I always enjoy all of our segments together, but really getting to the nitty-gritty of unpacking why, for some folks, $1 million may not be enough. And here's the reality. It really is a personal thing. I think that obviously you've worked with folks who have less than $1 million saved up, and they're fine because of their needs, their spending needs, their goals in retirement, right? It matched with that number. I think of the story you've shared of someone who came in who had over $3 million and they didn't have enough to retire because of what they were spending every month. And so I think it's encouraging for people to know that this is a very individualized, personalized thing. But because folks are living longer than they ever have before, that fear of running out of money is something that does affect a lot of folks. A lot of people are choosing to work longer. And so what we wanted to do now was kind of go through some of the main reasons. We have 10 of them here, why people might continue working past the age of 70. And before we dive in, I would just love to hear, are you seeing this with folks that you're working with or folks that come in to meet with you for the first time? Are people on average working longer?
Well, yes, absolutely. Yes. And a couple of other things. People are going from a full-time job to a part-time job.
Mm-hmm.
People are going from full-time job to retirement. Oh, what am I going to do in retirement? Now let me get a part-time job. And that's why the statistics show that 43% of the people in their 70s are working. They're actually earning income, and many times, as we're going to go through in this segment, many times it's for other reasons than just financial reasons. That is the number one reason, and that is because of financial necessity. Because, what, like we talked about in the first segment, 1 million might not do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And now some of you are out there saying 70. I thought 65 was retirement age. Right. That was retirement age. But you have to remember, if we go back to the thrilling days of yesteryear, and we go back to 1935 when they first started Social Security, and you got the opportunity to draw Social Security just like you do now at age 62. The average age of the American male was 61 years and 8 months when they passed away. So things change over a period of time. And now when we say, retirement in 70, still working. And the number one reason is we don't have those pensions anymore that companies used to give and used to provide for people. And we haven't saved. And for a lot of reasons, we've become more of a microwave society, and that we need to spend everything that we make now. And we don't really see that as a priority of working. And so people continue to work in their 70s because of a financial necessity. They just have to have the money to get by because they don't have those defined benefit annuity pension plans. And so they just have that defined contribution plan, and they've made most of the contribution or not made most of the contribution. And so they have to continue to work, number one, because of just financial necessity.
Yeah. But you mentioned a lot of other reasons. And the second one definitely is a good example of that: social interaction.
I had a lady sit in my office in Arcadia yesterday, and her husband was going to continue to work. And she almost came to tears, and she said, I'm going to turn in my resignation today. And she said, I'm going back to work and turning in my resignation. They were just doing a final checkup to make sure that they had enough money to retire, and that they had the plan and that we had built for them. And she almost came to tears. And her biggest concern was, she said, I love the people I work with. They are my social network. I go out to dinner with those people. We have trips that my husband and I take with those people. That is a really, really big thing. When you retire, you say, well, it's not going to be me. Well, you know what? It is me a lot of times. It is a lot of people who are out there. They get their social interaction from coming to work. I've got one particular staff member here at Mosley Wealth Management. She always tells me, she said, I love coming to work. I just love coming to work. She said, you guys are all my friends, and we do have a great culture here of working with each other and supporting each other and being a team. And you're going to miss all of that and that social interaction if you've drawn all of your social interaction from people that you work with, then you're going to miss that. That is going to be an opportunity for socializing and interacting with colleagues that you're not going to have anymore. And it could put you under stress a little bit mentally and emotionally as well.
And that ties right into the next reason on this list: sense of purpose. I think that's why a lot of folks have a hard time making that transition from working to retiring, because they feel like they might be giving that up as well.
I've got another client in mind. I mean, when you've done this 29 years, like I've done, you've run into thousands of people, and you don't have to make up stories. You just have to remember them. And I've got a person right now who's who came to me about a year and a half ago. They are a very powerful person in the defense industry, and names will go unmentioned. And they were planning to retire last year, and now they've thought about 6 months later, and now they've thought about 6 months later. And this person is working because there's just nobody else in the world who knows what he knows and does what he does, and he's got a sense of purpose. Now, your purpose in continuing to work past 70 might not be that monumental. In fact, there are a lot of people that retire from their real job and they get their retirement plan in place. They take a couple of years to travel and do things, but they go back to work in their 70s and they're working on something that brings a sense of purpose to them because they're getting involved, they're making a difference in people's lives, and it's a lot easier psychologically, emotionally, mentally, every other way to continue to work, to continue to be active if you feel like you're really accomplishing something other than just making more dollars.
Yep.
I've got other people who they're making dollars, but they're not making dollars because they need the dollars. They're making dollars because they have a sense of purpose with what they do.
And that's actually another item on this top 10 list, legacy and contribution, right? People want to leave that legacy, and that can be from a financial perspective as they earn more, or simply by continuing to contribute in the ways that they do through their job.
You can be like this gentleman I mentioned who feels like he's contributing to the United States. You can be like some people and they're working and they realize that their kids are struggling to make ends meet, and they've got grandkids that need to go do travel ball and need to do dance and need to do the other things. So I've had grandmothers and grandfathers go to work to make money just to provide for all of those things for their grandchildren, to take that burden off. So that idea of leaving a legacy, and I've actually had some grandfathers coach a little league baseball team that their grandson was on, and their granddaughter played softball in one case, and this lady coached the softball team, and it leaves a legacy, and it leaves a contribution, because there are a lot of parents right now who are working so hard, they don't have the time to coach Little League or coach softball or NJB or all the things that I used to coach and used to make time, but they don't have the time to do that. So you can leave a real legacy. I've got a brother-in-law who's in Corona, and his sons are now 40. Okay. But he still coaches Little League baseball in Corona, and he works really hard. Hats off to you, my brother-in-law, Mike. And what he's done has left a legacy. And we'll go to a baseball game and there'll be 35 and 40-year-old guys coming up to him, 45-year-old guys saying, "Hey, coach," because he's left a legacy,
Yeah. Well, and I think that it really does help just our health in general, right? That's another item here on the list. A lot of people being able to stay active, it all ties in with that sense of purpose and leaving a legacy. It provides structure, routine, mental stimulation, and it just helps you have things to look forward to in retirement as well.
Use it or lose it. You ever heard it?
Oh, yes. Yep.
If you are out there and you're 65, 70 years old, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Use it or lose it. And there's just so many benefits to having a routine, to even if you don't work, just getting up and having a routine where maybe you just go through the motions. You take a 1-mile walk every day. You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to do a Baker to Vegas run like some of the police officers and the firemen do. You don't have to do something like that, just the health benefits of just staying active.
Yeah. And then from a very practical standpoint, and we touched on it in the first segment too, being able to keep up with inflation. I mean, at age 70, it's very probable that someone could easily live another 15, 20 years, and the cost of living could very conceivably double in that same amount of time.
Yeah, if you did the old math calculation to retire and you said, I've got X amount of dollars, I can take this much amount each month out. Well, guess what? To make ends meet, you've got to take X amount plus 20% right now than you did 3 years ago. So inflation is something that will kill some budgets. And if you don't have a proper plan, like a retirement blueprint that considers that from the very beginning, whoops, that was a gotcha, because it's going to be a real gotcha. Then you've got to go back and calculate that in, because you must it's not an option. You must deal with inflation right now.
Yeah.
For a long time, it was like, oh, it's 2%, it's 3%, it's no big deal. It wasn't for a long time, but it is a big deal. And here's the problem with inflation. It never goes down.
Right.
You never hear of deflation, okay? It never goes down. If you don't have a proper plan, you need a retirement blueprint. And whether you're working in your 70s or not working in your 70s, or maybe making a decision as to whether you can work in your 70s or not work into your 70s, you need a retirement blueprint that addresses income, inflation, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy. You can get one. It's a phone call away to claim yours. Come in. We have offices spread all over Southern California. We have 6 fiduciary licensed advisors who can sit down and meet with you and build your own plan. And the best of all, it's absolutely free.
There's never been a better time to claim yours. That number to call is 888-930-5609. You'll be able to schedule a time to come in and meet with one of the all-star advisors from Mosley Wealth Team Management and get your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be diving into the financial impact of working past age 70, and we'll get to those listener questions as well. Stay with us.
Which will you spend more money on in retirement, food or healthcare? Do you take your investments out of the stock market now that you're retired? How do you know if you've saved enough to stay retired? Will your Social Security check be reduced in the future? How do you produce income from your nest egg to fight costs like taxes and inflation? At Mosley Wealth Management, Tom Mosley and the team take the guessing out of retirement planning by devising a written plan that accounts for all of your concerns. The bigger question, are you going to be okay in retirement? Find out the answers to your retirement questions by calling Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609, 888-930-5609.
With volatile economic conditions, rising taxes, inflation, and interest rates, retirement has become a complex landscape. We think that today's modern retiree faces more challenges than previous generations did, such as longevity and legislation risks. That's why we believe it's important to stay informed and be prepared. At Mosley Wealth Management, we pay attention to the financial currents and develop a retirement plan that is designed to help meet your unique needs and goals. From investment strategies to tax-efficient planning, Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management are here to guide you along the way. Don't let today's economic winds potentially blow your retirement off course. Call Mosley Wealth Management for your own complimentary retirement blueprint and written financial plan. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California, and I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. Tom, I know that you have been rocking and rolling this month with live events all throughout Southern California. Let's share with our listeners some of the upcoming opportunities that they'll be able to connect with you and your team in person.
If you want to see all of our events, go to our website, Mosley Wealth Management, mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's MOSLEY, wealthmanagement.com. And you can find all of our events for the next couple of months, and summer doesn't slow us down. We're out there and we're having events, and we'd love to have you come join us and learn something about Social Security. Our retirement master class is a 2 to 3 hour class where we go overview of the entire compass of how to build a retirement plan. And then we also have shows and events on taxes. So come to one of our events. You'll learn a lot, just like we hope you do on this show every week.
And it costs you nothing. We do, though, ask that you go ahead and register so that Tom and the team know how many of you are going to be attending these events. So again, to register, to look at the events and be able to get your spot, all you have to do is visit the website, mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's MOSLEY wealthmanagement.com.
And Kristin, I'm so glad you reminded me of a story we've told because we had it happen again. We're glad you come. Keep coming. Come all the time. But we did have an event where a certain number of people registered. We made more than enough material for everybody, and more than enough material people came. So we actually
Mm.
ran out of material again. So please let us know you're coming, because we want to make sure that we have enough seats out. We want to make sure we have enough material out so that you really get the most out of the time that you invest with us.
And it costs nothing to register to come, right, Tom?
Absolutely. They're all free.
So we encourage you, and if it's such a courtesy to the entire team to make sure you register ahead of time. Well, in our last segment, we were going over some of the common reasons why folks are continuing to work past the age of 70. We need to talk now, Tom, about the financial impact for folks of working past age 70. And so we've got a list here we're going to work through. The first one is, if you're continuing to work past the age of 70, you can actually reduce your drawdown years. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, let's put some things from the show together. If you have your $1 million and you want to know if it's going to last, if you retire at 65 and you live until you're 90, or for those of you who are married, if you retire when you're both 65 and one of you lives into your 90s, you put more stress on that $1 million, because those are the drawdown years.
Mm-hmm.
You've built all of these years of accumulation, and if you put that under a 25-year stress from 65 to 90, then there's a lot of years to draw down, and so you might need a bigger number. This is where everybody needs a perfect plan for them, okay? But if you do work until you're 75, or you don't have to work a full-time job. A lot of people work a part-time job, and it just, with Social Security, and if they're married with two Social Securities and a part-time income, it allows them to not start drawing down until they're in their 70s from their nest egg. And so what we mean by reducing your drawdown years, the longer you can put off beginning to draw down, the lower that nest egg total needs to be. So that's one reason people continue to work, just to continue to reduce the number of drawdown years you're going to have in your retirement.
The second reason is you might not have to take your RMDs, those required minimum distributions. Talk about why working past age 70 could make that a reality.
Well, right now you have to start taking required minimum distributions. And I always talk about, what does that mean, Tom? They're required, there's a minimum, and it's a distribution you've got to take,
Mhm.
and you've got to pay tax on it. Well, at 73, you have to do that if you're no longer working. But if you are working actively and you're contributing to a 401k and you're not more than 5% owner of the business, a little gotcha there, so be careful for that one, and you're not more than 5% owner of the business, you can continue to contribute to your 401k, and you don't have to start taking a distribution, a required minimum distribution, until you cease employment with that company. So it's a little known deal, because a lot of people, when I bring that up to them personally and they're still working, they say, wow, I didn't know that. I thought I was going to have to keep working, keep making my income, and then additionally take out my required minimum distributions from my retirement plan. And no, you don't, from a 401k. Now, if you've got IRAs, you've got to take money out of them at 73,
Mhm.
working or not. But your 401k, you won't have to take RMDs from those unless you're more than a 5% owner of the business.
Right. And that's the important distinction, because it's the 401k from the company where you're still working. If you have old 401ks left behind somewhere, or as you mentioned, Tom, other IRAs, those RMDs are still going to have to come out. And this is why that RMD conversation can be so tricky.
It is. It's so tricky. I don't believe they intentionally do this. I don't think. I want to give them credit for not
I don't. I think
intentionally,
they do it on purpose. I will
because
come on
it's
record and say that.
right. And right now, we just got done with tax season a month ago. And right now, a lot of you are saying, yeah, I had one of those gotchas last year because I was working with somebody who didn't point those things out to me,
Mhm.
and it was a gotcha. It got me. And that's why, I bring up the name of Ed Slott. He's known as America's authority on IRAs and 401ks. I am proud to tell you that I am a master elite level advisor with him. I've
Mhm.
trained with him for years, 4 days a year, on tax laws, tax changes, on IRAs and 401ks. Because if I, as a financial planner, do something that costs you $10, $12, $15,000 of tax that you don't need to pay, then I feel like I've really, really, really made a mistake. But there's so many financial planners who don't even address these things. And
Right.
they put you on a yo-yo plan
Mhm.
where you're on your own out there, buddy, when it comes to taxes. But we look at it differently at Mosley Wealth Management. If we can save you money on taxes, that's more money you can spend for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, another interesting thing about working past the age of 70 is with Social Security. So, we all know that the Social Security benefit does not go up after the age of 70. So, you want to go ahead and turn it on at 70 if you haven't already. But the good news is you have no penalty, meaning you don't have to give any of that money back depending on how much you're working, right?
Right. Like a lot of people are not aware that if you turn on Social Security at age 62, up until you reach your full retirement age, you're not able to make more than a little over $22,000 this year.
Or
So
you have
somebody
to give
says,
a lot of it back. Yeah.
yeah, for every $2 over, you have to pay $1 back. And I just had last week in Costa Mesa, this lady came up and she said, "Oh my, I've got to rebuild my whole plan because I was planning on turning on my Social Security next month when I turned
Mm.
62. That's the reason I'm here, and I'm still working, making $80,000 a year." She
Wow.
would have turned it on and given it all back.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it again, I don't believe maybe they do those things on purpose, but they don't apologize when they catch you.
Yeah, what the government giveth, the government taketh away a lot of times if you're not aware, right?
Right,
So
right.
we always say
Well,
about that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, another reason the financial impact of working beyond age 70 is that you might be able to maintain your health care coverage. So that's an interesting one because a lot of folks are, trying to reach Medicare age of 65, but if you're continuing to work, talk about how that works.
Well, if you've got a group plan, many group plans do not force you off of that group plan at 65. They just keep you on that group plan. Even if you're on a spouse's group plan, your spouse is still working and you're over 70. I just had a guy in the office about a month and a half ago who was 74 years old and he was still covered by his wife's plan. She was in her upper 60s, not quite 70, but she was still working and he was still covered by the plan. You'll get about the same medical coverage, but you'll get much better generally group coverage for dental and vision. So there's a lot of bells and whistles and a lot of reasons you might want to stay with that and just stick with the group plan. And you can do it if you're continuing to work. Whereas if you're on Medicare, you're going to lose that if you're forced off to go on to Medicare. You're going to get coverage, but
Mhm.
you might have better coverage through the group plan through work.
Right. Well, I know we're coming up to the end of the segment, but obviously the more that you continue to work, that could help you lower your debt. But there's another interesting thing on here. Beware of the tax bracket creep. Let's touch on that briefly.
Well, the tax bracket creep, if you're 70, you've turned on your social. If you're still making income and you do have IRAs, you've got to take money for required minimum distributions. You may be with all of those things together, boom, 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 pushing yourself into a higher tax bracket. You may have to pay more for Part B and Part D of Medicare. That's why you need to work with a financial planner who considers all of these things, who considers income, inflation, investments, taxes. Everybody got your attention there? Taxes and your health care and your legacy. And that's what a retirement blueprint is all about. You need to know yours. You don't need to just, well, I've got that area covered. I've got first base covered, or I've got, worse yet, I've got third base covered. Well, you got to get to first base and second base before you get to third base. You need the whole plan. You need a plan that addresses all of the aspects of retirement, not just investments, not just income. That's what we offer you through the Retirement Blueprint. You can claim yours today. Meet with one of our advisors. We'll start with a blank sheet of paper and build yours based on your situation.
And to claim yours, that number to call is 888-930-5609. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be answering this week's listener questions. Stay with us.
Get your retirement right on the money with Tom Mosley. Call 888-930-5609 for your no-cost appointment. 888-930-5609.
Do you know how you'll generate income from your investments along with your Social Security in retirement? In our opinion, it's never too early to start the income planning process for your future. An income plan can help you work towards creating a steady stream of income to support you throughout your retirement years. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Take control today and start income planning for your retirement. Call the team at Mosley Wealth Management so we can help you design a complimentary written income plan to help you live the retirement you've always wanted. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. And Tom, before we get to this week's listener questions, I really wanted to wrap up that last segment with something that you had shared that I think is really valuable for our listeners as well. We were talking about the financial impact of working past the age of 70, and you have some really good points about what someone needs to consider in addition to the financial impact, what comes along with that decision to continuing to work past the age of 70. So let's talk about that briefly.
Well, there's always the good and there's always the bad. The good news is all the things we talked about could be positive for you. The bad news is you've got to weigh that against two things. What does it do to your health if you continue to work, or your well-being, your mental well-being? I get a lot of people who come in and they say something like this. You may be out there experiencing the same thing. The ownership of my company changed, my manager changed, I'm in a new department. I had one lady one time say, I don't like my manager, I don't like my company anymore, I don't like the people I've got to work with. Well, if you're working into your 70s because of some financial necessity or something, that could really weigh on your health and your well-being. You may need to take off and to stop work at that point and weigh the financial balance there of, yes, this is what it cost me financially, but this is what it's costing me physically and emotionally and mentally. So that is a really big thing. Here's the other thing. Every year you work, if it's a lock-in job where you've got to be there, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks out of the year, less vacations, that just shortens your freedom years, your go-go years. Now, let me point out something about go-go years, because we had a lady this week say, I know I only have $100,000, but I want to for retirement, but I want to go spend it because Tom talks about spending it and doing things during your go-go years. I want to make clear, you only spend that money during your go-go years if you've got enough money. If you don't want to blow all your money out when you're before you're 70 and then have to work when you're 70. But what it does is sometimes people work through all of their healthy years.
Right.
And then they wait till they're not healthy anymore, and then they have to stop, and then they don't have any go-go years. They don't feel like going overseas or going to Bora Bora or Fiji or whatever your bucket list dream is. You don't feel like going on that African safari. And that's why it's really, really important to weigh that out of what you are giving up, but what you are getting by continuing to work.
Absolutely. And, you were talking about the retirement blueprint before the break too. And it just speaks to how you make a decision in one area of your financial life does and will affect all the others. And we're whole people. You can't just look at these things in isolation. You have to understand not just the financial impact, but the personal impact in all areas of your life as well.
You know what? It really, I see this all the time. Here's what I'm trying to get my thoughts together here. Investment companies, they even call themselves blank investments. There's a lot of blank investments companies. They're only addressing, in most cases, one aspect of 6 that are crucial for a retirement plan. They're only addressing your investments. They're only addressing how much you're going to make, and they don't even have very many investments for retirees that are income producing, that address the other areas of retirement. They don't address, in many cases, those investment companies aren't interested in helping you tax harvest and get your tax from a forever taxed IRA into a never taxed Roth, where you're never taxed again, and you leave it to your heirs, whether that be your spouse, your children, whomever you leave it to somebody, and they don't get taxed on it as well. They're not interested in helping you do that. They're only interested in investments, and that's their focus. That's their name. You get what you pay for. You get only investment advice. A retirement blueprint goes far deeper than that. Income advice, inflation advice, healthcare advice, tax advice, and legacy, how you leave it. All of those things have to be in a plan as well.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue to our first listener question of the weekend. Again, if you have a question that you would like for us to answer here on the radio show, we invite you to email your question in. You can do so by going to info@mosleywealthmanagement.com. Again, that's info@mosleywealthmanagement.com. And we always change the names to protect your privacy. So, Tom, our first question this weekend comes from Diane in Ontario. She said, it certainly is challenging. I'm trying to decide between two different financial advisors right now. Are there things to ask them beyond the obvious? How do I pick the right one? Such a good question.
Yeah, it is really a good question. Sometimes people say, well, I want to go by credentials. How many letters do they have behind their name? And I would say the letters, sometimes that comes out boo-hoo. You really have to pick the person. Do you trust the person? Do you feel like the person is being honest? Have they been in business a while? Have they, if you've been in business a while, several things happen. You've not done things on the short term just to try to make yourself money. If you've been in the financial service business, you've established a practice that's there for a long period of time. If you're out in the public, if you, for instance, if you're on television and radio, that means that you've got a pretty substantial firm that could be believed in because you're out there in the public. You're not afraid to hang your shingle out and have people, that have worked with you before say, whoa, that's a good guy or that's a bad guy. I mean, you want to do things behind the scenes if you're on the take, if you're a financial advisor. And I've actually, Kristin, hired CFPs, and I have CFPs on my staff right now. And I have chartered financial consultants on my staff right now. I have a MBA with a concentration in finance. So the letters behind your name aren't unimportant. But I've hired CFPs before who we had to let go because they had no integrity.
Yeah.
They weren't honest and you couldn't trust them. They would say things that were not true and they signed things that were not true. So I let them go as soon as you find that out. So integrity is one thing that you have to feel like are they interested in you? Or are they interested in themselves? And I've had people tell me, when they've come in and I've asked them, well, why are you in this combination? And I've had so many people, a lot of people, literally dozens of people say, well, I'm in that because that's what my advisor likes to do. Well, what your advisor likes to do is very unimportant for your financial plan.
Yeah.
What you need to do for your situation is what you should be getting advice from your advisor. He or she should be doing what you need, not what they like to do, what they want to do, what they want to sell, where they want to place you. They should be probing into you to find out what you need. Yeah. And that's a big difference between, like we talked about, an investment company and a real financial planning company. From a person who feels they're certified because they were able to pass a test versus somebody who passes the test of life because people can trust them and people can believe in them. So you need to find somebody that you have commonality with, that you feel like they're telling you the truth and you can feel like they're interested in you, not interested in themselves.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, the financial advisor should be working for you. They work for you. You get to be the boss. This is your money. Their job is to provide you with the recommendations, and then you can make the decisions on how you want to proceed with your financial plan. And Tom, as you were talking, it made me just smile. I mean, you know how honored I am to get to be a part of what you do week in and week out. And I know folks say this to you all the time, that when they actually meet you, You are the same in person as you are on TV and on radio. I can definitely attest to that. I love that through the live events that you do, folks can really come and see what they're going to be getting. They get a taste of Mosley Wealth Management, what it would be like to work with your team. And by the time they come in to meet with you, they've had a chance to see you across all these different avenues and then be able to determine if it's a good fit both ways. And it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of it.
You know, I grew up for 4 years in Fort Myers, Florida, and on the Fort Myers News Press up at the top, Thomas Edison had a winter home there. And Thomas Edison was attributed the quote, "If you always tell the truth, you'll never have to remember what you said."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you're always the same person wherever you are, you don't put on airs, you don't lie, you don't fabricate things one place and then have to wonder and remember what you fabricated at another place. It just makes life so peaceable.
Yeah.
It just makes life so easy because you're always who you are.
Yeah.
Because whether you put on airs as to who you are or not, you still are always who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I go a little deeper than that with this. I was in the ministry for 19 years. I have to answer to a higher power than even my clients or the Securities and Exchange Commission through which our firm is registered as a registered investment advisor. But I've got somebody far bigger than that I answer to, and he knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows who I am here, in the closet, out in public, everywhere. You just have to be the same everywhere.
Yeah, so true. So true. Well, that's such a great question, Diane. And, you know, I was always taught too, it's so important to ask questions. There's questions you always want to ask any financial advisor you consider working with, including things like, are you a fiduciary? How are you compensated? What is the total cost I will incur from working with you? And that transparency with those questions can tell you a lot.
You know, it really can. And, you know, thanks for being here and helping me walk through this show today. For those of you who are listening, thanks for listening. I hope you listen to the whole thing. Kristin, you're always the greatest. I had other people. I requested you. I've been totally satisfied every single show we've done because I want to put out something that you who are listening can learn from. Today, you learned, how much do I need for retirement? Is it 1 million? What is my number for retirement is a better question. You learned that you might want to work past 70. You might not. You learned a lot of things. We went through a question about finding a financial advisor. Look, I'm here to answer your questions. I have 6 advisors that I have trained that we work with on every single case together with to make sure that we are doing what's best for you. How can we help you? You have to pick up the phone and call us to get on our schedule.
And for the last time this week, that number to call to receive your complimentary retirement blueprint is 888-930-5609. Tom, thank you so much for your kind words. It's such a joy to do this show with you. And again, we thank all of you for joining us and listening this weekend. Until next time, be safe, be happy, be blessed. And we look forward to being back with you next time on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.
Tom Mosley and the team have helped thousands of folks like you in Southern California plan for their retirement. Now make the call yourself. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.